What to do, folks? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to talk about a JJ Demon project. Now, back in July, I reviewed JJ Demon's. Basically, I want to say his debut project. I'm not really sure because there's not a ton of information about JJ Demon. That kind of makes reviewing his music difficult just because there's not a lot of biographies or real concrete details about this guy. But I know that this was a follow-up to Funeral Disco that I reviewed back in July, where this came out in late 2011. It's a free mixtape, good compiled amount of tracks. That this is JJ Demon's next effort after Funeral Disco. Now, the thing about it is, from what I've checked, the last time I checked, it seemed like JJ Demon took a few years off, or after this project, he either put out like an EP or I don't know. It just felt like the waters got kind of murky to where he didn't come back until like 2016 or 2017. He doesn't have an overabundance of projects out, but it felt like kind of like the more kind of gothic and alternative image that he had on Funeral Disco and this album. Seems like he kind of switched it up and was not quite as like alternative later on. But I do at least appreciate this because it's kind of in the same vein as Funeral Disco, only it's better. Like I complained a lot about Funeral Disco just because it was a misadvertisement where it came off just with like the album artwork and songs like the phone song Vibrating that gave off this image that he was going to be like this emo rapper in kind of the alternative sense, and kind of portray a lot of like music similar to like Broken Side and like Dot Dot Curve and those type people. But the problem with it was just the fact that it really wound up just being like a kind of electronic and kind of alternative version of Boom-Bap, where basically I think if you know JJ Demon's rap style, he sounds very similar to I want to say like something De La Rocha or something like that. I forget his name, but he's from Rage Against the Machine. He raps very similar to that guy from Rage Against the Machine. Just really stuck in like 1991, and that whole album was just a bunch of storytelling and boom bap styled kind of raps just within that sense, minus like the two singles, which the other one I've kind of grown to like a little bit more. I kind of said I didn't like I Killed Hip Hop just because it didn't have a hook on there that much, and really it was just too lengthy a verse. But I kind of feel like I will give JJ Demon credit that the two singles off of Funeral Disco were pretty much smash hits, which really happens to be the thing. Now, this album, Live Backwards, which basically means evil, live, I don't know if it's live backwards or live backwards, but it's an improvement upon Funeral Disco. It's not quite as preachy and not quite as rancid of a turn just in terms of like the boom bap style. I mean, he very much still has like that vocal cadence about him where he sounds like he's ripped out of 1991, but the productions that he is upon are just that much better. And I have to give him credit that the songs that he rapped upon really are kind of edgy and have a nice blend of EDM, electronic music, and really kind of like light rave music in a lot of senses. I mean, there was a lot of rave music that came out in 2011, but I feel like JJ Demon's version of it, there just were not a ton of people apart from like LMFAO that were really rapping on this stuff back then. So he really kind of found a nice niche to kind of get into and start doing. If his rap style and vocal cadence was just, his tone was just that much more appealing to the ear and was not so much forcefully boom bap kind of tonality, I would have definitely said that this project would have translated a lot better. This project probably would have went from like a 3.5 or a 4 out of 10 to like a 6 or a 7 out of 10, just because it really has edgy production and it sounds ahead of the pack in terms of like the production and the kind of ambient feeling about it. But it's just his vocal style is just so kind of nails on a chalkboard and just kind of ingratiating to listen to. It's just not as fun as it possibly could be, because I mean that's JJ Demon's Achilles heel in my opinion, is just the way that he raps. I mean, really, if it was like Paul Wall on these type raps, or if it was like Ritz or one of those type dudes, Tech Nine hops in, some other cat like that, plenty of other folks like Ludacris, someone like that, I would have to say, yeah, it'd be pure success, even if they took the same topic, same chorus, and it was just someone else doing it. But I just feel like him trying to be reminiscent of 1990, 1991 rap, and then do it in like a more electronic sense, kind of do like blood on the dance floor and broken side kind of electronic just in like a boom bap style is just kind of so it's really difficult to see if there's even singles because like I said there's not a ton of information about this project. Really the only song I could really think that seemed like a single was just Play God, and this is a pretty loud club song. I mean definitely if you are really hip to like rave and dance club music and things like this complete kind of blitzkrieg gonna take more than 8 shots of Jack Daniels kind of vibes. I definitely feel like Play God is a pretty stellar song. This is an improvement, and this gives JJ Demon another hit past his pretty much singular hit, in my opinion, up to this point, which was just the phone song Vibrating. But once again, like phone song kind of came off as like this psychotic kind of manic song where it didn't seem like JJ Demon was in character. He was just kind of wigging out over some woman. He kind of takes that template and does it again with Play God, where it's just some kind of horrorcore kind of psychopath type dude that really is on like a pretty carnivorous clubs. I mean, it would be a great kind of club song, but it's just too bad that JJ Demon just didn't choose like some more braggadocious rhymes and just try to go lyrical on it as opposed to making it some sort of kind of psychopath and kind of horrorcore type vibe. I mean, I do appreciate horrorcore, but it kind of felt like it probably would have gotten more popular had it been in a more kind of just more attempt as like a single. But it is a great song. I mean, when you're liquored up and women are dancing at top speed and that type of stuff, it's really kind of difficult to notice like, oh, this isn't JJ Demon. It's like, well, big deal. So it's just kind of, it is a great song. And I feel like he does actually follow it up and realize that. I think that was like a complaint, possibly. I don't know because it's been over 10 years. But just to kind of say, like, if people liked Vibrating and there just was nothing like it on Funeral Disco, where there actually are. And it's funny how on a free project you'd find more songs in what you're looking for as opposed to the one that you had to pay for. But I'm not going to complain because these are some great songs here. But I would have to say like Falling in Reverse, which I don't know if he was doing that as like an ode to the band, but Falling in Reverse, Get Weird, and Palpitate are all three kind of electronic and light senses of EDM and kind of club music that work real well. But the thing about it is, it's not like club music like 50 Cent's In the Club or like Usher's Yeah or something like that, or Ludacris's Stand Up or something, one of those type records. It's really kind of more in like a real kind of, I really feel like JJ Demon tapped into like the rave setting and managed to do this in like a sense of where it's not just, the typical kind of club bop where it's in more like a liquor, quite, ecstasy kind of realm type stuff. And I think that's definitely to be appreciated. Music just doesn't really do that. EDM and rave music has really kind of been downplayed and turned down a few notches, but this is definitely some bona fide music for that sense, especially songs like Play God and Palpitate, which really nail that style extremely well. And I would probably say that Falling in Reverse does too. I feel like Get Weird could be a club song, kind of has like some Lil Jon undertones in there. I don't know if he actually collaborated with Lil Jon, but his voice is in the song a little bit. That one's probably the closest thing to like a club song, but those are the most outgoing songs on here, are those 4 songs. I appreciate the fact that JJ Demon, despite that his tonal pitch is kind of still not quite as melodic and synchronized with it as another rapper might have been, but it's just his style. I think that's just his way of doing things. It's just kind of how it is. So, but I do appreciate the fact that the songs are good. And it's great to kind of get this rave music just within like a kind of lyrical and more kind of thought-provoking setting. But there is a Mixtape song. I really kind of wish that this would have been JJ Demon's own song, but he samples a Katy Perry song. I mean, because it is a free mixtape, so he makes a Katy Perry song his own, which is UFO, Like a UFO. Has a good hook by this Nitro dude, and really it's Katy Perry's E.T., and that song E.T. by Katy Perry really had kind of like a spacey and kind of outlandish beat, but which was really addictive, but they kind of turned it into a miniature song of their own. I just wish that JJ Demon would have been on it more, because this Mary Magdalene, she did a decent job on there, but I felt like JJ Demon really needed to make the song his, where he just kind of raps like a really short verse and then kind of just lets the Nitro hook dude just do like some overcast kind of vocal pitches and for the rest of the song, and he should have had a second verse on there, JJ Demon. So I mean, that's what to me, it's an almost song. I can listen to it, but it's not, I mean, it's not as good as it could be. Like Lil Wayne is pretty good at making like mixtape songs of artists' actual songs and making them his own, kind of like he did with Mr. Jones by Mike Jones, but JJ Demon didn't quite pull that off. So I think Katy Perry still had the better version of that song. But like a UFO is decent, but it's just kind of it's really kind of passe compared to what I thought it could have been if JJ Demon had done a better job. But the hook was pretty good. I mean, Nitro did a pretty decent job. He did a decent job of trying to give that like some new flavor and like a new pitch. But I mean, really, there's a lot of missed opportunities on here. Like, I don't know why JJ Demon would make a song about bugs in my house. Kind of felt like an odd topic, and like we're all dying anyway in the rain and growing up so fast were just kind of awkward kind of topics that I wasn't really too hooked upon. I kind of felt like some of these just had bad production on there and just were not quite as enticing compared. Because I really feel like JJ Demon, if he were to mesh out more like this, really kind of, I mean, he has a good personality and he knows that he can rap well, but it's just unfortunate that the things he chooses to rap about are always kind of in a more, not necessarily homely, but just more stoic and kind of, it's kind of in a more kempt and kind of like buttoned together kind of approach that it just feels like he just really needs someone needs to shake him and loosen him up, or he's not a church boy, but he really kind of has like this real straightened up kind of image that, I mean, despite the fact that he's alternative and emo in some senses, he just doesn't cut loose enough. You don't hear the songs about him wanting to smoke and drink and see thongs and that type stuff and those type vibes, and give a high five to the homies and smoke with them and that type stuff and cruise out in his Cadillac or Impala or something like that. He's just very put together in the sense that he just cares, kind of like Eminem, how he cares more about being lyrical than being more flashy and stunting a little bit more. I mean, he does at least do these songs, but it really feels like he's not as much into them as he probably should be, considering that he has such an easy job to do. And it just kind of, like some of these, I mean, he does do it. I mean, I'll give him credit the fact that these four or five songs do have a nice pitch, but it just kind of reaches a point where it's like some of these kind of come off as just a waste of time because he could be fleshing out. I really feel like this electronic and kind of rap version of Blood on the Dance Floor and Broken Side, just in kind of a more lyrical sense, could pay off, but he kind of like dabs in it and kind of like adds it in as like a spice compared to just making it like a main theme, because he could do it and have a bunch of songs like Vibrating and Play God and Palpitate, but I just feel like his attempts at trying to flesh himself out and become more of a well-rounded kind of rapper and musician just really are quite paltry, and it's just unfortunate because he wastes too many albums and years trying to do something that just doesn't really seem to work that well when he could have. I mean, I think you should go with trying to get hits before you try to become more well-rounded, and it seems like he's kind of doing it the other way around, where he's trying to build the ability to do more types of songs before he's actually making hits, because, in my opinion, before Live Backwards, his only hit was just Phone Song Vibrating. And with this project, he did get Play God, which is one of the craziest club songs I've heard in quite some time. But even then, I felt like it was very short-lived, and, he could have used that song as his own as opposed to just having like a storytelling type thing in there. But this is kind of thing. But he does have the hits. I mean, it's in a mild sense. It's not quite as, he doesn't cut loose as much as he needs to, but I'll give him credit that he at least made an improvement upon Funeral Disco. So, but there's just a number. I really didn't like 100 Bars of Awesome Sauce. He did that again where he just did a bunch of rapping. Wasn't quite as interesting. He just needs to make songs. I mean, I really feel like it's good that he can rap, but making hit songs is more important than being lyrical. And it's just kind of the same trap that Eminem falls into. And there's just, I mean, he really does have a nice niche when he actually nails it. If he could just make songs like Palpitate and Get Weird and do those type of songs and have and another weakness I feel of this project is the hooks could probably be better. He should have hooked up with that Nitro dude and have him rap or do a nice melodic hook on a song like Get Weird or Play God or Falling in Reverse, and he probably would have had something. He should have found more people like Nitro, done some really good hooks, because a lot of these hooks JJ Demon does them himself, and he just does a lot of Boom-Bap kind of 1991 styled hooks, which I just, it kind of is a turn off in a lot of ways to get some of those, just because I feel like, I mean, this album doesn't really believe in melody that much, and it's just not as synchronized and as melodic and that type of stuff. I mean, it does have great production. He does believe in having great beats, but it's just, it has like some snags as far as trying to get like the concept of trying to make these songs translate well. And I think that's kind of why, and I mean, I can't say it for certain, but it seems like there's just a number of reasons that have kind of been obstacles towards him blowing up further. But he does have the hits, but it's just kind of mishmashed. He does have the hits, but it's just kind of mishmashed in that kind of concept. So that's the thing. I could talk about this on and on and on, but so I'll give you the 5 songs or 6 songs out of 14 I recommend, 5.5. So Falling in Reverse, Get Weird, Play God, I'm In Here, and Palpitate. And I haven't really talked about I'm In Here, but this is kind of a nice kind of rap mixtape where it's not so much alternative, but this kind of feels like a type posse song that like Meek Mill or Drake or Rick Ross would do on one of their mixtapes and stuff. So that's a nice one, real kind of nice, this kind of brooding and evening sounding kind of rap song. That's actually a good example. Wish he would have done more songs like that. If he was going to do like standard rap, I wish he would have found some beats as good as I'm In Here to do that. And then the song I was on the fence about was Like a UFO, the Katy Perry mixtape song, and that's 5.5. So really, I would like it more if JJ Demon would have been on there. I talked about that. So 5.5 out of 14. I'm going to give this album a 4 out of 10. I just feel like a 4 out of 10 is good enough to kind of say it has promise, but with all the stuff that JJ Demon could have done, but just didn't, it kind of means that he really is desperate for like more hits. Yeah, he can rap. Yeah, he can find good beats, but the song construction and the piecing it together and getting hooks that are actually kind of, I mean, some of the hook. I'm not saying the hooks are like horrible, but he needs something that kind of is more sing-songy and just you actually sing along with him and just kind of in a more format. Like Drake can do it, 50 Cent can do it, Chameleonaire can do it, but it just needs to be something more melodic and kind of sing-songy and that type of stuff. They're just more of like chants and kind of that type stuff, but it just feels like a lot of this stuff JJ Demon just completely did for Dolo, and it didn't need to be that way. But 4 out of 10, really, it's difficult to give it a social score. I mean, I'll give it like a 3 social just because there are some hits on here, but it just depends upon if his Boom-Bap style, rap style is kind of off-putting. And then I would have to say, like, there are no singles. That's just kind of the concept. But in terms of the future, I don't know what JJ Demon's been up to. These are really the only 2 projects by him I know, is just Funeral Disco and then Live Backwards. So it'll be interesting to review more of his stuff. But if he really kind of keeps transforming into this Boom-Bap kind of pitch where he's just making songs like that and just kind of not doing it in a more kind of glossy kind of vibe, I probably won't rate these very high. It's not like this album was that high, but it's still decent enough to pick up and download because it's free and there are some bubblers on here.